In the early days of November 1959, the small town of Holcomb, Kansas, was considered one of the safest places on Earth. It was a place where people never locked their doors, surrounded by vast wheat fields, open roads, and neighbors who trusted one another implicitly. At the heart of this community sat River Valley Farm, the domain of Herb Clutter. Herb wasn't just a farmer, he was a community leader, a man once honored by President Eisenhower himself. The Clutter family was the very definition of the American dream. There was Herb, his wife Bonnie, who was known to be somewhat frail and reclusive, their 16-year-old daughter Nancy, the town's sweetheart, and their 15-year-old son Kenyon, a quiet boy with a talent for fixing machines. On the morning of November 14th, everything seemed perfect. Herb was surveying his fields, and Nancy was teaching her friends how to bake. No one had any idea that 400 miles away, two predators were fueling their car and gathering the tools of death. Perry and Dick Richard Hickok, known as Dick, and Perry Smith were former cellmates. Dick was a cunning criminal, with a face slightly distorted from a past accident. Perry Smith was a short man whose legs had been crushed in a motorcycle wreck. He was sensitive, artistic, but incredibly dangerous. While in prison, an inmate named Floyd Wells told Dick that he had once worked for Herb Clutter and claimed Herb kept a massive safe in the house containing at least $10,000 in cash. Greed took hold of Dick's mind. He convinced Perry to drive to Holcomb to rob the Clutters and leave no witnesses. At midnight on November 14th, their black Chevrolet pulled up outside the dark farmhouse. Perry carried a 12-gauge shotgun. Dick carried a hunting knife. The killers entered through an unlocked back door. Dick and Perry woke Herb Clutter in his bedroom. Seeing the masked, armed men, Herb calmly told them, "I don't keep cash. I do all my business by check." Dick didn't believe him. He forced Herb to show him the safe. When it became clear there was no safe, Dick's rage began to boil. They dragged Herb to the basement and tied him up. Next, they brought Bonnie down. She was trembling with terror. Nancy and Kenyon were also woken and bound in separate rooms. Perry briefly showed a flicker of empathy, placing a pillow under Nancy's head so she wouldn't be uncomfortable on the floor. But this mercy was short-lived. Realizing there was no money, Dick snapped. He told Perry, "Finish the job." The execution. In the cold basement, Perry slit Herb Clutter's throat before a shotgun blast echoed through the house. Kenyon was shot next, right in the face. Upstairs, Nancy heard the shots and pleaded for her life, saying, "Please, don't kill me." They ignored her cries, forced her to face the wall, and shot her in the back of the head. Finally, they reached Bonnie. She waited for death with tears in her eyes. Another blast, and the last of the Clutters was gone. The most shocking part? After this massacre, they left with only $40 to $50, a pair of binoculars, and a transistor radio. 4 lives were snuffed out for the price of a cheap dinner. The Kansas Bureau of Investigation, KBI, led by Special Agent Alvin Dewey, took charge. Dewey was a friend of the Clutters, and he swore he wouldn't rest until the killers were caught. But the scene was baffling. No fingerprints, no obvious motive, just 2 bloody boot prints on the basement floor. Meanwhile, Dick and Perry fled to Mexico. Dick was confident they had left no witnesses. However, as their money ran out, the pressure mounted. Perry was haunted by nightmares of that night. They returned to the U.S., drifting from city to city using stolen cars and forged checks. They thought they were free, but back in a prison cell, an informant named Floyd Wells had heard the news. He told the police exactly who Dick and Perry were. On December 30th, 1959, the duo was cornered by police in Las Vegas. They were initially picked up for car theft, but the KBI was already on its way. The game was over. Under interrogation, Dick cracked first. He pointed the finger at Perry, shouting, "It was all Perry! He killed them all!" Enraged by the betrayal, Perry confessed the whole story, detailing a night of violence that horrified even the most seasoned officers. In January 1960, the killers were brought back to Kansas. A massive, angry crowd waited for them. In court, despite pleas of mental instability and troubled childhoods, the jury took only 45 minutes to deliver the verdict: death by hanging. They spent 5 years on death row, during which author Truman Capote visited them frequently, gathering material for his masterpiece, In Cold Blood. Finally, on April 14, 1965, the gallows were ready. Dick was hanged first, followed by Perry. At 1:19 a.m., both were pronounced dead. Conclusion. The murder of the Clutter family taught America that evil can strike anywhere, even in the most peaceful corners of the heartland. Today, the Clutters rest in the Holcomb Cemetery, but their story remains a chilling reminder of the darkness that can hide behind human eyes. I'm always open to corrections if I've got any of the details or the tone wrong. The best way to do this is to just tell me what I got wrong, or what I need to know. You can always turn this personalization off in your settings. Friends, if you found this heart-wrenching true story of the Clutter family compelling, and you want to hear more mind-blowing true crime stories like this, then make sure to give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. What do you think was the most shocking part of this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be back soon with another chilling case file. Until then, stay safe.